Watch out for the hole.
What hole? Watch out for the portable hole. Rock out to the portable hole. Watch out for the portable hole. Rock out to the portable hole.
Welcome to the Portable Hole Podcast. I'm Ryan George, and I am here with my good friend Cinik. Justin is out. He's in Florida, and I saw a video of him. He is busking in Florida for money. So good luck to him there. He should be back next week. But Cinik, how you doing?
Did you say he's stripping in Florida for money?
Busking.
Okay. I was like, I had no idea things were that tight for Justin. I would have thrown him a couple bucks.
Well, he texted me the other day. He's like, he can't make it this week. He's going to be in Florida, in Key West on vacation. But then I saw on Instagram or Facebook or something that he's like street performing. So who knows? Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he's having a good time. But I saw a guitar case, and definitely a few dollars were in there. So hopefully he's paying for his vacation. But yeah,
I don't know him well, but he does look like he can shake it, Ryan. So
Yeah.
I wish him well, and I hope he gets back safely.
Yeah, I hope so. But how are you doing?
I'm good, man. Good. Excited to talk about Fargo.
Yeah, no, it was a interesting season of TV. So you've been back in the workforce for a couple weeks. How are you feeling?
I have. Absolutely miserable.
Yeah.
It's going from the couch to wandering around all day long for 8 hours. I can understand why people fall in love with that sentiment lifestyle of just keeping your hand out and waiting for that check to show up every month.
Yeah. Well, did I forget now? Did you work throughout the pandemic? Like, were you working pretty much throughout, or did you have
Other than a few false run-ins with COVID? Yeah, I worked through most of the pandemic.
Okay. Working maybe a couple. I went from working constantly, getting up early, getting home late, to like not doing that for 8 months, and it kind of recharged the batteries, and it was kind of tough to get back into the workforce.
It does, and I have a bit of a commute, and I can tell you that really eats into the day.
Yeah,
my
absolutely.
day starts at about 6 o'clock in the morning and ends almost at 6 o'clock at night. So it doesn't leave a lot of time for everything else.
Yeah, absolutely. So, have you been watching anything recently outside of like what we're going to be talking about with Fargo?
Well, I am a huge On Patrol Live mark.
Okay, yeah.
You can catch that on the Reels channel, and also if you have Peacock, they'll show it there for free, and you don't have to pay any extra. And I've loved the show since the very beginning. It went off the air and came back kind of almost as a doppelganger of itself because of a lawsuit with, I think it might be A&E but yeah, I mean, I enjoy the shit out of it. It's on Friday and Saturday night for about 3 hours, and it just gives you an interesting view of the country and everything that's going on. And I can tell you, Ryan, out of the 7 or 8 departments that they follow every single night, mostly all over the country, it's kind of centered around Florida anymore. The common theme is nobody has a driver's license and everybody's on drugs.
Really? So not too far from what I would expect. It's mostly in Florida?
Yeah, well, they have, as they lose departments, it seems like Florida is more than willing to fill in. So I think out of the 8 departments they follow, 3 of them are in Florida now.
Yeah.
But you do get a look at California and North Carolina, South Carolina, and they added Arkansas, and those guys are cowboys. It's a pleasure to watch them law enforce.
I can imagine. You bring up an interesting point, because like I can think I know in a concerning number of people that have either fairly recently driven without a license or driven under the influence. And it seems like people just don't take that seriously. And it's weird for me, I guess, as somebody who I only got my license, a few years ago. And maybe that's part of like getting it as an adult versus like getting it when you're younger, and so it's not like ingrained in me. But I'm just amazed at the recklessness people sometimes display, in their own driving. It's pretty incredible.
Well, it's a question of risk and reward.
Yeah.
Now, I would never drive under the influence, because you're looking at an easy $10,000 to $11,000 bill when it's all said and done if you're caught. Plus loss of license, possibly potentially loss of job, depending on what you do for a living. So I would never do that. But as far as they really treat this driving around without a license or insurance thing is kind of just a slap on the wrist.
Yeah.
Where you would think that, all right, we caught you 3 or 4 times and now it's going to become a misdemeanor and now we're going to put you in jail for a little while. It just doesn't seem to happen.
Yeah, I know. It's like certain things, almost like, I think there's a whole other discussion we had about policing and everything, but like something like that, like you get caught enough times, like maybe you shouldn't be on the road, or, if you're displaying that kind of poor judgment, I guess. But
Agreed.
anyway, so let's get to, so there's a bunch of, it's weird. Like at the beginning of the week, there wasn't much to talk about. I was like, oh, what are we going to do for news? And then just a bunch of stuff has come out this like last couple days, it seems. But the first thing, so, we talk pro wrestling once in a while. Do you still follow any pro wrestling?
I generally only watch 1 or 2 events out of the year, but if it's
Yeah.
on, then I'll check it out. But it really all it does is remind me of how out of touch I am with everything that's going on. Once I fell in love with MMA, there was really no going back to pro wrestling.
Yeah.
We have the Royal Rumble coming up in a week or 2 or a few weeks.
I think it's like this weekend.
Yeah, so I'm always into that. And
Yeah.
we need to talk about the Netflix thing as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that was the story. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm always into the Royal Rumble, and of course, WrestleMania is a spectacle. It annoys me that they went 2 nights with it. I think it's unnecessary, but
Yeah.
They needed content.
Yeah, exactly. They certainly do. It's my dog going crazy. But yeah, no. So it's weird because like I'm a fan of. It's weird. I follow podcasts about things that I used to like when I was a kid, but don't care enough about to watch now. So like I listen to a couple of pro wrestling podcasts. So I'm weirdly like up to date on everything and kind of know what's going on, even though I don't really watch much. Like I'll watch bigger pay-per-views. If there's like a really good promo or something, I'll find it. If there's a good match or something, I might find it. But like to sit down and watch it has been tough. But yeah, the big news this week, until some stuff today, is that I guess the flagship Raw is moving to Netflix, which is a crazy move. Yeah.
Don't think it's just Raw. I think it's everything.
No,
so the pay-per-views are going to be over there. All the past content's going to be over. Basically, everything that's on Peacock now that kind of took over from the WWE network. Yeah. Everything's going over there.
Oh, so I couldn't figure that out. So is the Peacock network no more? Or is that like
they have it till I believe 2025.
Okay.
And then after that it's all done. It all gets pulled off there, which is unfortunate because I'm touch and go with Netflix. Like I could take it or leave it. There's not a lot of content on there that really interests me anymore. I think we just picked it up recently to go through The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
But Netflix is something I really don't need. Yeah. Where on the other hand, Peacock we would keep forever because we just love The Office and Parks and Rec and all that, the NBC stuff. So I like the fact that the option to watch WWE was on Peacock because I always knew I would have it. Where Netflix, I may just pick it up when those times a year roll around that I actually care.
Okay, so all right, so I wasn't sure about that because I didn't know that. So my thought, because from what I understood, that from what I understood, they were like USA bought SmackDown. So basically, USA was going to take SmackDown, and I think like their NXT, which is like their developmental show, is going I think on like WB, and so they were shopping Raw as a show. Yep. But I didn't know that it was like the whole shebang. Like, so I didn't know that it was like the premium live events that they call it now, or pay-per-views, if they were going to go on to Netflix as well, or, so yeah, that's a huge blow to Peacock.
Yeah. It's a big get for Netflix because I don't want to say content starved, but it feels like it to me because there's just a lack of interesting stuff on Netflix. Yeah. Once in a while, they'll turn out a horror show or, we'll get a season of Stranger Things that, I'll be interested in, but very, very few things on Netflix other than documentaries that I would actually watch.
Yeah. Yeah. It has become kind of hit or miss, like the days of it being must have. But if you're, it's a huge get, and I think it seems like for them, their first kind of foray into really live, live sports, I guess, for lack of a better term. So it's like, that could be something that's a big thing for them, and the next step for them, because we've gotten all the competitors who, I would say like maybe on the technical side, it's probably not as good as Netflix. I think Netflix still has them beat, like as far as the user interface and navigation to an extent, but content wise, like all these other platforms are really keeping up.
Yeah, they really are. I mean, it seems like I don't know how basic cable is still around. Like, I don't know how pay cable is still around, because it seems like every good idea, every good show, it all goes directly streaming, and the networks end up with CSI Hawaii and shit. There's like no original ideas left on television.
Yeah, no, seriously, it's pretty crazy. Well, yeah, so it should be interesting. I don't know that, like I don't watch it as it is, so I don't know that I'm going to start watching Raw again. But again, it's nice to have, because it does make things, again, if something comes up that I hear is good, I might want to watch it. It seems like this year's WrestleMania might actually be really good. Like, there's actually I'm actually looking forward to it, based on what they're setting up. So yeah, it's one of those things. Like, yeah, somebody who's like kind of a fan from a distance, nice to have. But it'll be interesting, and I think both Netflix and WWE, which was purchased by TKO, they're looking to make these massive moves.
Yeah.
So
it was the next 5 years. If you want to see WWE, it's going to be over on Netflix.
No, that's crazy. So the next story is a funny one. So we're going to try not to get super political on this, just because it's not the nature of the podcast. But this was just too funny to not talk about. Have you been following like the elections, both on the Republican and I guess the Democratic side, even though there's not much going on that side? Have you been really following everything that's been going on?
I mean, it was hard to get jazzed about it, because there's really not a candidate out there that I thought was going to make enough noise to unseat the guy in the lead. So it was, I mean, I have and I haven't. I mean, I know the players. I kind of know what's going on. I've kept track of the primaries, but the day-to-day of the campaigning really hasn't stuck to my radar.
Yeah. So, and are you a fan of the Good Liars? The YouTube comedy team?
I know of, but I can't say that I'm a fan.
So there's a hilarious video you got to watch. So, whether you're a fan of, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, I think many of us can agree that Ron DeSantis just flamed out, was somebody who was a rising star, and just, I mean, I fell on his face. I mean, he's like heard him been referred to as like a black hole of charisma, and he's just just somebody I don't like. Even no matter what my political affiliation would be, I would not want to vote for him. And there's a great video. So the Good Liars are a YouTube comedy team where they handed him a participation trophy, which he had to, and he had to awkwardly deal with, and then have them taken out while they're screaming, "He's special, he's unique, he's our little snowflake." I loved it. It was great. Worth watching, no matter what side of the aisle you are. Did you get to see the video?
Yes, and one of the best memes out there is that he should be made to carry his campaign full term, which I absolutely loved.
Yeah, that's great. No, it's like he's one of the people that he's just terrible and like fun to watch him flame out. And hopefully, that's it for his career. I'm glad. I mean, personally, like somebody. And I still stand by it. I have a lot of, I've always said like he was the person. I mean, realistically, I was like, I don't want him to, I'll take anyone over him. So I'm kind of glad that we're gonna get somebody else over him, regardless of who it is. But yeah, like to echo your sentiment, there's nobody anywhere right now that's running for anything that I'm super jazzed by. So it's kind of tough to follow, but here's what it is.
That is one of the things that, regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, I'm interested to see what's going to happen with that, because a lot of people are just, I'm going to take my ball and go home. I'm not going to vote.
Yeah.
So where do we end up with it all?
Yeah, no, it is. We're really in a weird place, because I think you have on both sides, relative. I mean, I'd say uninspiring candidates. Though to be fair, it's like the people that like Trump love him, but there's a lot that are done with him. And then on the Biden side, it's just like a lot of apathy, and we haven't had a candidate that's just energized us, as a population. And so it's going to be a weird election where you've just got this, like, I guess it'll be round two, and it'll be again like, hey, vote for, each person's like, vote for me because I'm not the other guy. And that's always, I mean, that unfortunately it feels like as an adult, that's always been like, for the most part, the political message, with the, couple of exceptions here and there, but it'll be that again, where it's just like, yeah, vote for me because I'm not as bad as the other guy, or I'm not as bad as the other team.
I just kind of feel like if the Republicans actually wanted to win, they would have threw anybody else out there. But I just don't think it's in the cards this time around.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, I feel like I feel like they tried. I just think they're too scared to commit fully. It's like there are a few that tried, but I think they're scared of the consequences, of trying too hard. That's what it felt like. So they're kind of, everybody's gonna they're gonna have to back this horse again and see where things go. But
But they've been doing that for years now, and it hasn't led them to the promised land. Like the people that he's endorsed haven't done well. The elections that he's chosen haven't gone over well. This went from mass hysteria to kind of a quiet roar, where they were booking theaters for this guy at stadiums for this guy to speak in, and now it's a hard time filling a high school gym. Neither one of us really have a dog in this fight, so it's not like I see it one way or the other. I just see things in terms of realism, and the buzz isn't what it was.
It isn't, but what makes things very scary is that he's winning in the polls. So it's like, what's going on? Like how apathetic are we to Biden that he's like doing so well? But again, it's also early, so this thing doesn't start heating up until we get towards
Well, if we
summer.
look at the last election, everybody went to bed with Trump in the lead. And that's he based who was going to vote off him, he based who was going to vote for him off of receptions he was getting at these rallies. Well, you don't get. They're two different types of candidates with two different types of followers. So you're going to that red crowd is going to be loud and proud, where the other people voted through the mail. So if you're going to take polls, most people are going to be like, screaming, I'm going to vote for Trump, where everybody else is just like, I'm done talking about this.
Very, very well could be. So it's gonna be wall to wall news over the next God knows, a few months. But and then I didn't have this as a news item, but this was another thing that came up, that Jon Stewart is going to be back on The Daily Show. Now, were you ever a big Daily Show watcher?
I can't say that I really was. I mean, I always felt like it was kind of a takeoff of Saturday Night Live a little bit,
like Weekend
where
Update.
it was, So, I mean, I respect the hell out of Jon Stewart and
Trevor Noah.
Trevor Noah, I mean, they're fantastic talents. It was just nothing that ever kind of grabbed me. I mean, the news has worn on me long enough that that I didn't want to sit down and watch a parody of the news as well.
Well, what's scary about it, and he's very good, and it'll be interesting to have him back, after however long he's been away. But what's kind of interesting is that for a lot of people, that became how they got their news, right? Like a lot of people, that's how they consume their news in this comedy. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but that it's like, it's kind of parody of the news, but then it became like how a lot of people consumed their news. So it'll be interesting, especially again with this election cycle coming up. It's gonna be a lot. So we shall see.
I mean, it's no worse than the Zers getting their news off of TikTok in 30-second intervals.
You're
that
absolutely
are
right.
all jaded one way or the other.
No, you're absolutely right. I think that's a problem with social media right now, right? It's like you're gonna get and then you're gonna get fed whatever you keep watching. So you're just stuck in that echo chamber. So the other story, so there's been some rumors, and there's a larger discussion maybe to be had about it, but there've been some issues. I mean, there's obviously, big news story was Jonathan Majors getting, getting arrested, going to trial, getting convicted. Marvel kicking him out as Kang. I thought he was fantastic in his roles as Kang and in everything he's been in, really. But they kind of wiped their hands clean of him. And I guess the rumor now is that they're going to recast Kang instead of just pivoting to another villain. So assuming, again, take it with a grain of salt, but if this is true, do you think it's the right move for Marvel to make, with this phase 4?
Well, I mean, if there's one villain that you could recast and get away with it as far as believability, it would be Kang, even though they've showed multiple versions of Kang as the same person. And I'm a little excited about the actor that his name's been floating around as of recent, which is Domingo Coleman. He fantastic guy. Fear the Walking Dead was a mainstay through the cast or the whole run of the show, and I got to meet him, and he was absolutely one of the most personable people I've ever met. Very sweet, very kind, talked to me for a long time. And stood right up, shook my hand. I like just a great all-around guy, and he was already pretty famous when I met him. So and I believe, did he or did he not get a Academy Award nomination, or was that a Golden Globe?
No, I was gonna say I think he got an Academy Award nomination, and I think he's got another movie coming up. He's writing or directing and starring in, I think it's a biopic. I just saw, it was another thing I saw just earlier today. But yeah, it's like somebody who's like, his star is rising, and yeah, he'd be a good choice. So now, do you think it would be the right thing to just recast the character, or would you say like pivot to like a Doctor Doom or another villain at this point?
I would have preferred that they pivot, only because Kang hasn't been my most favorite villain.
Yeah.
I'm sick, and I realize that I'm excited about Deadpool, but I'm sick to death of the multiverse because everybody's doing it. It's being done in every show, every universe, I'm just tired of it. And if it was exclusive to Marvel, then maybe Kang would be this fun and interesting and original villain that we all want him to be. But since it's being done everywhere, I'm just over it at this point.
Yeah, I can see that. I like Kang as a character. I like what they did with him in Loki. I feel like they, kind of cut his nuts off a little bit in Ant-Man. And then you run the risk a little bit of and then you do run the risk of it just being too much. So I would tend to agree, like maybe you make him a lower level villain, or just completely pivot to somebody like Doctor Doom. But it'll be interesting. Now, what are your, just in general, because I don't know that we've done and not that we're going to do a full one today, but that we've done like a Marvel postmortem. But it's definitely, it's not where it was 5 years ago, even 8 years ago. Like, do you think that it's completely lost its way, and that it may never reach the heights it was at? And if not, what do you think it's going to take to get back there?
Good storytelling.
Yeah,
it feels like that we're in a rush in every single thing that we enjoy or we like to do the inclusion thing, and I'm fine with that as long as the story supports it. And a lot of the times it just doesn't feel like it does. It feels like we're changing things and adding things, and things are different just so we can check boxes. And I think you do a disservice to everybody when you do that. I don't, you kill the story. It's just not as interesting or as fun. And I honestly think, Ryan, they've gone too far down the rabbit hole with characters. I think they've finally reached the point where, all right, well, we don't really care about, like, we're getting a Madam Widow movie.
Madam Web, right? Yeah,
Madam Web. Yeah. Who asked for that? Who's out there? I mean, unless you're like a comic book sycophant, like who's asking for a Madam Web movie? And it's going to fall on its face, and then they're further going to kick dust and dirt on the grave of superhero films as a whole.
Well, that was kind of the curse maybe of Guardians of the Galaxy, correct? Because that was the first big chance that they took. It was like, here's a group, here's a team up of characters 99% of people have never heard of. Even big pop culture comic fans have a lot not heard of these people. And it was such a massive success that I think Marvel fell into the false sense of like, we can do whatever we want at this point, not realizing
would it have been without James Gunn?
Yeah, well, that's the second part, is it was a great story and well directed, and it's like they're forgetting the storytelling and how the seeds were planted. And I think that you mentioned, so I see that there's some spots where maybe they're throwing in things just for the sake of it. I don't see it as being what the issue is. I think the issue really is more of the, like you said, storytelling and too much. That we're just getting too many things, and it's all interconnected. So then the other issue is that everything has to, it becomes must-watch TV until it's too big to watch everything, and then you just become apathetic. It's like I feel like that with book series sometimes. Like sometimes I'll be kind of like, I'm like a completionist, and so there'll be a book series or something out and I have to watch everything, and then if I fall behind a little bit, it stops becoming must read or whatever it is. And then at some point I'm just like, well, I don't know, I'm not going to watch this because I'm so far behind. And if things aren't getting the buzz that they were before, then you just you don't care about going. And maybe I don't know if it's like too many things or the fact that they're all interconnected, but it becomes an issue where like you're not going to watch everything, and then it's like, oh wait, if I can miss that show, maybe I can miss that movie, and then if I can miss that movie, then maybe I can miss that other thing. And then it comes down to like, they need to tell good stories, and if they start telling good stories again, people will come back.
Well, I mean, if you look at the last theatrical release, The Marvels, the majority of people didn't love Captain Marvel. So their answer to that was to throw two other characters that we barely knew or barely cared about to save that franchise that should have never got a sequel to begin with. And as much as I'll consume Marvel content till the cows come home, I mean, maybe Bob Iger is right. Maybe they're overdoing it a bit.
Yeah.
You know, I loved having a brand new series every month on Disney
Yeah.
Plus, but at the same time, yeah, maybe they've overdone it. You know,
Yeah.
maybe they've just gone a tick too far.
Yeah, and I think part of the other issue also is that like you've got the cinematic universe, or which is now extended to TV, and it's hard to blend the two because like I really liked Miss Marvel. I thought it was a really well done show, but it felt like it didn't make sense to put her in Captain Marvel, because if you didn't watch that show, which a lot of people didn't, you're gonna have no context for who this person is or why they're there, and then she kind of gets shoehorned in, very little explanation. So it was like, it's like this weird like bouncing back and forth between TV and the movies, which does make things hard because not everybody's watching everything, and so yeah, things just start to feel shoehorned in, and then you just feel like who why should I care? And that's always the thing. It's like, why should I care? I cared about Tony Stark. I cared about Captain America, but why should I care about these characters who I have no idea who they are or why they're here? I just know they're on the screen and there's some tenuous connection to whatever character we're following.
Going back to Jonathan Majors real quick.
Yeah.
I knew he was in trouble the second the people working for him quit as soon as this stuff hit the fan.
Yeah.
Like, you pay them. I mean, if Satan was to come to Earth, he would have a publicist.
Yeah.
he would have a PR team. Like,
Yeah.
he absolutely would. And the second that Jonathan Majors' people just backed away and said, yeah, we're no longer working with him, I figured there was more to the story than we realized. And you just get in these toxic, bad relationships, and they're hard to get out of, and they're hard to see the right side up. And it's generally driven because the sex is really good. I know, I've been in a couple bad relationships, and I've only stayed in them because the sex was really, really good.
Wow. Well, there's there are a lot of things that came out. I know there was a big thing on Twitter about a lot of people kind of saying that he is a toxic person and a narcissist and all this stuff. And I don't know how true it is, but yeah, you do have to think like, okay, if his publicist is out, that's a little crazy for somebody whose star was on such a rise. And there's a great, if you have a chance, comedian Josh Johnson, really good comedian and somebody I like a lot, has a bit where he talks about like listening to the video or watching the video of him, and some of the stuff he says is just pretty crazy to begin with. So it's like, yeah, this guy might be a little too full of himself. It's too bad because he's a fantastic actor, but
no, we'll see him again. At the end of the day, if Mel Gibson can find his way back out of Hades, we'll definitely see Jonathan Majors again, and he'll rebuild his image, and all be forgiven because everything comes out in the wash.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, last bit of news. Trailer came out. Did you see the new Roadhouse trailer?
I did.
What were your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I wasn't expecting a lot. Let's face it. The original is an absolute classic. It's a dynamite movie. It's a lot of fun. It's mindless, but probably Patrick Swayze's best work. If we're not going to count Ghost, because I'm just not a huge Pottery fan, and or Love Stories or Whoopi Goldberg. Anyway. So, I mean, I didn't expect a lot, and I was kind of pleasantly surprised. And I think the smartest thing that they did was they let Conor McGregor be Conor McGregor. I don't think he's going to be that much of a actor or thespian, or I don't think he's going to be able to ever be in any kind of drama or do huge monologues. But as a bad guy, as the number one heel, absolutely, I'll watch him and Jake Gyllenhaal beat the hell out of each other.
Yeah, it's another dog barking.
So
he was
many dogs, Ryan George.
Yeah, I would say unfortunately, this one's crazy. But no, so yeah, I thought it was done well. I think he was. It's weird, remakes are weird. Like, I feel like you could have called this something else, and I would never have connected it to Roadhouse. Outside of them saying Roadhouse,
but would you have seen it then? If it was just Jake Gyllenhaal beats up Conor McGregor,
I mean, yeah, because it looks like, okay, Jake Gyllenhaal's good, and can be funny. And watching Conor McGregor, I was surprised at how much screen time he got as a villain. So I guess he really is the villain, and he's got that charisma, right? He's got that like it factor. So yeah, he may not be the best actor in the world, but he has that thing that like he's kind of, you want to watch him on the screen. And I think if they allow that to go, I might watch that. Like, I don't, honestly, why not? Like, I don't know that calling it Roadhouse was going to make me any more or less likely to see it, except that we talk about it. Maybe it was more likely to talk about it than not. But yeah, I probably would have seen it. Looks interesting. It looks like, and again, it's on Amazon. It's free, or relatively free. So it's something totally worth a watch.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'll be there with my popcorn rooting on Conor McGregor.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe if it's good enough, maybe we'll do it. We'll do a review of it. All right. So speaking of reviews, let's talk about Fargo season 4. Season 5. It's crazy.
Yeah.
That is season 5. So I guess before, and this maybe is putting the cart ahead of the horse, but just off the bat, where would you rank this as far as the 5 seasons of Fargo?
Well, let's go down the seasons. Okay.
Okay.
So least to best.
Okay.
What would you put at 5?
Probably, let's see. Season 2 was Kirsten Dunst and or which
Jesse Plemons.
No. Jesse Plemons. Was that season 2?
Well,
that was season 3. Okay.
No, it was season 2.
Okay. So I would probably put that as my least favorite season. What about you? What do you have at 5?
Even though they blew my damn wig off at the end of season 4.
Yeah.
Season 4 was probably my least favorite. I thought Chris Rock was absolutely amazing in it, but I didn't connect with any other character at all throughout the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. I would put it's tough now that I'm thinking about it. I'm gonna have to. That's how good the show is. I really like season 4, but I'm probably gonna have to put that in the 4 spot for me then. I thought Chris Rock was great in it. It took a little bit of time to really get going. I did like it, but I'm realizing now, like, it'd be hard for me to put it ahead of the other season. So I'll probably put that at 4. What about you?
Probably season 3 with Ewan McGregor.
Yeah.
I really, really enjoyed it. I thought the story was fun and interesting, and I liked him playing his own brother.
Yeah,
and I loved how they wrapped it all up. But I would rate that slightly above season 4.
Okay, so I would put season 5 in my 3 spot, and so I'm guessing then season 4 for you would be the third one for you. Oh no, I'm sorry, season 2.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then for me, the Ewan McGregor season, that would probably be two for me. Just on the back of he was great as his brother, and David, I always forget how to pronounce his name, but one of those people, like, I could watch him all day, on screen. The villain Varga in that season, but he was great. So like I think that would get 2 for me. What would you have at number 2?
Season 1 would probably be number 2 for me.
Okay.
I mean, you're not beating the combination of Martin Freeman and Billy Bob Thornton.
Yeah.
It started the show, it set the tone, and it was near perfect in every way.
Yeah, and same for me. So season 1 would be my favorite easily. And then, so what's your number 1 then?
Oh, my number 1 is this past season, season 5.
All right, good.
But I honestly felt like I felt like Juno and Jennifer Jason Leigh kind of carried this season as far as doing the real heavy lifting or the real true acting. Juno Temple really turned me. I only knew. I know she's been in other things, but I only knew her from Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
So she, there wasn't a lot of complexity to Keeley. Where in this, I really thought that Dot has been one of my favorite characters written for TV.
Well, it's okay. So actually, then this gets into my first question about this season. Is, I mean, this season, as every season is like just chock full of good performances. What are your 3 standouts? So Dot is one. What are the other standout performances for you?
Jennifer Jason Leigh, definitely, and a close second as Lorraine Lyon.
Yeah,
she was just, they've figured out, I mean, she's been around 30 years now.
Yeah,
and they figured out a way to use her, and we've really got to take our hats off to Quentin Tarantino, because he tapped into something with her with Hateful Eight
Yeah.
like gritty, strong,
Yeah.
just a fantastic actress that, once again, he can kind of, he put his shine on.
Supposed to like her. She's like just such a strange character, but just does such a good job, especially in that last episode. The kid from Stranger Things, kind of unrecognizable.
Without the hair, I didn't know who he was until somebody brought it up. Like, hey, I hear he's in the season.
Yeah, well,
that is him.
I was watching, like, I know that guy. What do I know? And it was like I couldn't place it for a bit. Like, what do I know him from? But it's like, yeah, he was great. But just as a season, just chock full of really really solid performances. So this story revolves around Dot, played by Juno Temple, who's living the quiet suburban life, married to her husband Wayne with their daughter. She's arrested for accidentally pepper spraying a police officer during a chaotic school board meeting, which all happens in the first minute of the season. And then it unravels everything for her. We find out that she 10 years previously had escaped Roy Tillman, a corrupt sheriff. She assumes a new identity. And then basically the season's Roy trying and eventually succeeding at capturing her. My one question for you is, Dot basically plays various different versions of MacGyver and Kevin McAllister throughout. Was it a little too much for you, or did you like that aspect of her character?
I mean, because it was unexpected, I enjoyed it. Like I get a little tired of the constant the female needs of rescuing, and for once, it was nice to see a female that was full well capable of taking care of herself, and it was in a believable way. She wasn't doing ninja backflips. She wasn't overpowering men twice her size. Like, she would take the hit in the fight when she tried to go head to head against people. It was her outsmarting her lesser male counterparts, which I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that was an interesting thing, because she would fight even when the odds were against her, and she would lose. So that was the good thing. It was like, she wasn't, you're right. Like, she wasn't doing backflips or beating people up without deserving it. But she also, when she used her wit, is when things worked. And she used, she accepted help sometimes. So she wasn't like the damsel in distress, but it wasn't also completely unrealistic where she had zero help the whole time. So I did like that they balanced it. Like, there were times where she needed help and she got some help, but other times where she was the one saving and rescuing other people. And they did a very good mix of it to where you never felt, again, like she wasn't the damsel in distress, or she wasn't just like, I guess a Mary Sue, for lack of a better, term.
And all with keeping a super cool demeanor, which I liked.
Yeah.
There was never like any kind of a emotional outbursts or crying or carrying on. Like, she was a tough as balls chick, which I absolutely respected. Yeah.
And really, I feel like the only time she really showed that she broke down was when she found out that, I forget the officer's name, but that he was dead, right? Like, that was the first time when she actually, she cracks. But, at the same time, it's like, it was over at that point, right? Tillman's been arrested, and she could breathe a little bit. But yeah, that was the one time, like, she showed emotion. So yeah, she wasn't like breaking down constantly. So I liked how, how they did that. And that kind of bleeds into the next question. So we talked a little bit about, like, representation and I think we're both all for it, and I think it's important. But I think the issue we've had recently is a lot of times it happens for the sake of it, and it's not done honestly or with the right kind of care. And so a lot of times you'll get a show that's like, okay, we're gonna throw in diversity for diversity's sake, but it's like, hey, it's more like the show is like patting themselves on the back, like, hey, look at how diverse we are, instead of actually telling a good story. And I think that's the issue, is like, give us all the diversity, but don't sacrifice story because you're going to pat yourself on the back for doing it. And this show in particular, this season of the show, is very much a female-centered show, right? Dot is the protagonist. Lorraine is becomes an anti-hero in her own right, and a character we're rooting for by the end. The police officer, Indra Olmstead, is also like the earnest, police officer, but she's racked with debt, and also, is gets a lot of the story time for this season. Did you get that feeling with this, or did it feel for you more like everything felt organic and it wasn't like kind of throwing it in our face, like, hey, look at this, we've got female leads?
This is just TV done right, Ryan.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't matter to me who the lead was. They were, and it reminded me a lot of The Bear in that way. It's a well-written, well acted. Everybody is flushed out. Like, we're not just throwing people on the screen to say, hey, here they are. Like, everybody has a place and a reason to be there. And I absolutely applaud. I understand that it was going to get ratings bombed a little bit because there's strong female leads, and I think that's ridiculous. I really think that it shouldn't matter who's on your screen as long as it's being done well.
Yeah. And that's right. Like, I think you're totally right. Like, there was never a point for me. I didn't think about that until I read about them getting ratings bombed. And it's like, okay, come on, this is ridiculous. And yeah, that was the situation. It's like, it easily could have, in the marketing tried to pat themselves on the back for it, but they didn't. It's just like, it's a strong story. We've got strong leads. They have new female, but it is what it is, rather than it being that situation of like, hey, look at how good we did, and then you give us like a mediocre story. So yeah, I totally agree. I think it was one of those. Yeah, didn't even think about it until I read that article, and that kind of sucks, because it's like you do have this group of people who will just jump on anything if there's like a female lead or a black lead or whatever that they don't, and then all of a sudden you're review bombing for no reason.
Oh, Ryan, didn't you hate her husband, that Lucas Gage? Yeah. Oh God, that guy infuriated me. Like, I feel like he set men back 10 years in general. Like, he just infuriated me every single time he was on the screen.
Yeah, but I guess it's like, and in a way, it's like, I feel like when you grow up that wealthy, I guess you can kind of like, either you become that or you become more like the mom, and it's like, I mean, he's had everything handed to him, but yeah, it's weird, like. And it's funny because you start to think about that yourself, like, right? If I'm in that situation, and he's not dumb. He's got to realize that last episode that his wife is in mortal danger. Like, would he have done anything to protect her? And that kind of, like, I don't know.
Oh yeah, no, that's husband. I'm talking about the police officer's.
Sorry.
Husband.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, you're right. Okay,
quote unquote golf pro.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, he's the worst. Okay.
Worst human being ever written.
Okay. Yeah. So Dot's husband more is just feckless and like weak.
Yeah.
But yes, you're right.
Felt when he got shocked and kind of had mental issues, I felt bad for him. Like, he became a sympathetic character.
Yeah,
he's kind of adult before. But when he was a kind guy.
No, that's fair. But yeah, no, you're right. He was terrible. And glad that he got kind of kicked out, and hopefully, that character does suck. So no, definitely agree. So there, this season did have some political undertones. I think you've got Tillman's like a libertarian. There's some references to like Trump and welfare queens and kind of things thrown in there. Did you like for you, was it a little too much with some of the political undertones, or did it just feel like with the diversity that it that it just kind of flew under the radar, that it didn't really hit you as like, okay, this is a little too much?
I mean, I felt like it's reflective to how part of the country sees things.
Yeah.
And there, for every flyover state there's probably 10 Roy Tillmans in the sheriff's role.
Yeah.
And that's no shot at them. That's just the way they live. Like, I'm okay with people not sharing my ideals or my beliefs, or I believe everybody should do what's best for them. But I mean, I believe that there's certainly Roy Tillmans out there.
Yeah.
And I didn't think it was over the top at all. I thought it kind of rang true to what you would see if you went into an area like that.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Yeah, like I think there was a couple moments for me that I thought like was like, oh, okay, they're doing it, but yeah, it was I was mixed. Like sometimes I feel like show don't tell. So there was a couple moments of like they're telling us, even at one point he even says I'm a libertarian. Like, it's like I get what the character is. It's like he's got a ranch, he's a sheriff. Kind of a cult leader. Like there were a couple moments maybe where I would have been like, okay, the audience, trust the intelligence of your audience. Like we know who this character is. We don't need you to tell us as much. But for the most part, it wasn't too bad. Like, it wasn't something that was like egregious. But definitely, like, it was like, okay, I know what this is. Like, you don't need to push too hard with it.
I could have done without the twin nipple rings in seeing John Hamm's ass.
No.
Like, I really could have lived out. I probably have about maybe 20 years more left, and I really could have lived the rest of that time. I've never once said, I wonder what that looks like. And unfortunately, I'm stuck with that visual.
Well, now you know.
Now I know.
That was great. One of the funnier moments in the season. It's like, yeah, I never once thought, what does John Hamm look like with nipple ring? Not like that. Can he still be Batman for you now? Like, can he be the?
No.
No.
That is done.
Yeah.
Still, speaking of which, like a quick shout out to Dave Foley in this season too.
Yeah.
Like he was just such an interesting character.
Yeah. I know, the sad demise, but no, definitely a really interesting character. But no, with John Hamm, like I that was one of the big what ifs for me. I feel like he would have made a great Batman, and it might just be because he looks like Bruce Wayne. But I always wanted to see that. But yeah, I don't know if we could see Batman with nipple rings. Oh, you there?
I'm here.
Oh, weird. Were you paused or did?
No, I was looking at something. Sorry.
Oh, okay. All right.
I was looking up the name of somebody.
Oh, okay. All right. So eventually Dot gets captured. And the finale, I thought the finale was a fantastic like episode of TV, but we basically get the standoff at the Tillman Ranch. What were your thoughts on like how that whole episode and scene at the Tillman Ranch played out? Was it as tense as for you as it was for me?
Okay. My one, and maybe this does adjust my list to season 1 being my favorite. That last episode, I was so hyped for it, and I felt like it was such a disappointment.
Really?
In the sense that we could have spent the whole episode at the Tillman Ranch shooting it out and sneaking around and, doing some deep character dives, and we really got none of that. We got about 10 minutes of it, and then we went on with the story, which I really thought that conclusion could have been a little deeper than it was. But yeah, I mean, I liked the setup. I was excited to see what happened next, and that it just kind of all went in a straight line.
Yeah, it was a weird episode because it's like you build to this finale, and which was that weird, like the way that the episode before it ends is basically he lets her out, and like he frees the tiger, and so you're just like, okay, the next episode is going to be chaos and just insanity, and you're right, like that what could have been an entire hour happens in 10 minutes, and then the last 40 minutes is basically an epilogue. So it was a choice that they made, where, because there's a world where, it's the opposite. You get 40 minutes of the standoff, them breaking in and her escaping, and then 10 minutes of an epilogue. Now, my one thought is, and maybe this is why, is the last 10 minutes where Munch is in their home and they basically have to convince him not to kill her. I thought that was a phenomenal 10 minutes of TV, because it's all tension, and but all like her, just seeing that yes, she's clever and she's been outwitting people throughout, but here it's her warmth and her heart that wins the day. And I thought that you don't have that episode, you can't have that moment like that, I think, if the episode is a 40-minute action piece. So maybe that was the choice they made. It's like, okay, we're gonna there's the first ending and then epilogue, but then this is the real ending, because you didn't expect it. Like, I wasn't even thinking about him at that point. I thought he just went off into the sunset, not realizing, no, he's coming back to kill her. And so that scene was unexpected, but I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, I could have done without it.
Yeah.
I really thought it would have been a fitting end for him to let her go and then vanish off into the sunset and let the story play out amongst the characters that kind of mattered.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt he was like kind of a third-ary character. I really didn't think that, other than being a physical threat to offset Tillman and Gator, I really didn't think he brought a lot to the story. I loved the beginning where he showed up and he kidnapped her, the stuff going forward with living with the old lady in the house and all that. But I really thought that last scene was slightly unnecessary and extremely unbelievable, in the sense that if someone shows up to your house to kill you, you're not talking them out of it.
Yeah. Well, so I agree. I think I get where you're coming from. I do think the scene played out really well. But what did you think about that element of it, the kind of supernatural thing? Like, is he hundreds of years old? Is he immortal? Like, what were your thoughts on kind of them throwing that whole thing into into this otherwise relatively grounded show?
I didn't care.
Yeah.
I kind of just ignored those scenes. I
Yeah.
know they popped out throughout the season.
Yeah.
I really thought he was kind of a super unnecessary accessory to the story.
Yeah.
I just didn't care. Like,
Yeah.
it didn't make me like him or dislike him more, or make me want to know about him. It was just, I wasn't quite sure why they were even doing it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Like, I was kind of, I'm kind of, I'm with you that when they got to like the more supernatural elements of that character, I kind of shut off. It was like, all right, whatever. Like, I'm not, I don't really care about this. I like, it's hard enough to suspend disbelief for some of the other parts. Like, don't make me suspend disbelief, for this too. But I will say, like, I thought his character was interesting, and like I said, I did like the way it ended. But I totally see your point of view that we have a show that has built to this one moment, and then the moment that it's built to, we just kind of brush off, and then we get this moment tacked on that I thought was really good, but it wasn't. It's jarring, or it can be jarring because it's not what you expect.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, what give me your final thoughts, and what would rating out of 10 for this season of Fargo?
I mean, as much as I'm slamming the last episode, I really think that the show has only gotten stronger as the seasons have gone on. And I always love when they stick an unexpected tie into another season in there, like they did at the end of season 4. I mean, for as much as I thought season 4 lacked, that very last moment of season 4 made it all worth it to me, because it made me understand the story in a much deeper way than I ever would have if they wouldn't have done that. And I was hoping that we would kind of get that with this season 2, but we didn't.
Yeah.
But listen, I'm 100% a Juno Temple fan after this season. I'm happy to see Dave Foley to get work. Nick Gomez, who I kind of sort of know and have met, and as Agent Jaqueen, I thought he was great, and I mark out for him every time I see him get a big role like that. So that made me happy. I can't say the things that worked. The things that didn't were forgivable. I don't know why they made that decision with Noli's character, or Oli's character, but
Yeah.
I really kind of wish that they hadn't, because it didn't add anything to the story. And I think you'd be hard pressed to find anybody that go, oh, that made me like this character more, or dislike him more, or even care about him at all. So I mean, overall, I would give the season probably like a 9.5.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think I would give it a 9 easily. And that's just, again, shows you how good the series has been, because this would still rank about third for me as far as my top top 5 seasons. But yeah, you know me long enough that I like big swings. And so I think that this season takes a lot of big swings. Some hit, maybe, a couple doubles, triples, home runs, in there. I don't think there are any, swing and misses in it, but it takes a lot of big swings. I like that, it kept you on your toes. You never really knew what to expect. I think that they really treated all the characters with a lot of care. It was really well written. It was a chaotic story that felt like they had control of it. So I never felt like I was unsure of what was going on. And just, again, fantastic performances, and surprisingly, like I'd be ready for another season of Fargo. It's like I feel like they haven't lost it. So yeah, this definitely gets a 9 for me. And yeah, I'm excited for another season, because it's clearly like, Noah Hawley's, you got it figured out. he's got knows what he's doing when it comes to taking on this property. And who thought that that classic movie that came out how many years, 25 years ago or whatever it was,
it's either 25 or 30 years, but it's getting long in the tooth, because I mean it was a while ago, but they somehow have captured the essence of that, and this ever expanding world. I can't wait from season to season what they do with it next.
Yeah. And they wait just long enough between seasons that I always like. I'm not as excited right before the season starts as I probably should be. So hopefully get another season sooner than later. But yeah, definitely a 9. Easy 9 for me. So once again, second episode of the Portable Hole podcast done. Cinik, thanks a lot for being on the show this week. For anyone that's listening, you can catch us on all social media at portable_hole. And you can check out our website, which has everything there at portableholepublishing.com. So Cinik, since Justin's not here, until next time.
Don't get captured.